want to talk about what Biden did via executive order the other day. But first, can we get a little background on that Remain in Mexico? How did that come about? How did you guys find the legal authority to do such a horrific, evil, horrible thing, as we were told?
Well, I mean, look, there are so many provisions that Congress has put into law in the Immigration and Nationality Act that have been underutilized or just not even used at all. And this was one of them. So back in 1996, Congress expressly codified the ability of the executive branch to require people to wait in Mexico for their court hearings. So say you cross the border illegally, you want to make an asylum claim, you want to claim some other kind of benefit, that's great. You can do it, but you're going to wait in Mexico for your court date, and then you're going to come back into the United States, and we'll let you in when it's time for your court date, and then from there, if you get to stay, fabulous. If you don't, you get to go home. And it's just such a very simple concept. It's something again that was present in law for over 20 years before it was used for the first time. And so it was one of these things that was just kind of hiding in plain sight. And it's, conceptually, it is no different than, for all the viewers or listeners at home, no different than going to the deli counter, right, at the grocery store and taking a number, waiting your turn. There is nothing radical. There's nothing cruel about this. It's a common sense application that, we implemented under President Trump's strong leadership, and it worked.
So you didn't make it up?
No, it was not created out of whole cloth or anything. I mean, it was in law. Right. It was the first time that we used it, and it just no one had touched the authority before. So we said, here's something to do.
That's obviously not characterized that way. It's characterized as Trump's evil plot,
right,
an evil plan that's so cruel.
Right.
But they did it in 96. So why did no other president use it? How could Congress pass a thing and the executive not even pretend to do such a thing?
Well, I mean, that's the $1 million question, right? And which is really kind of the key, I think, to why so many people, the real Americans, so to speak, believe in Donald Trump, because he is a person who is willing to do the things that need to be done and to actually care about the enforcement of our immigration laws. The kind of the ruling class for the longest time that has run things in D.C., they just don't care. They don't care about the effects on the average American. There's a lot of business interests behind it all, a lot of big money. And so at the end of the day, the people who lose are the American people. And it does real damage to our society, not just in terms of, kind of the sheer numbers that we see today crossing the border illegally by the hundreds of thousands, and the harms that causes to states and communities, and to the rule of law, but it also really harms the social fabric that ties us together. It's like a nation bound by the rule of law. And when your first act of coming to the United States is breaking those laws, and you see that happen on a mass scale, the American people naturally have a visceral reaction to that. And it's surprising that no one cared to enforce those laws effectively until Donald Trump.
Yeah, that's a big deal. That's a big story. That's very, very important, everyone listening, to know that this was not a Donald Trump executive order. This was a Donald Trump fulfilling a 1996 congressionally passed law. That's a totally different story than anything we told. And then the second part of what you just said, or the next step, I should say, yesterday or a couple days ago, we talked about how easy it is for an illegal alien to register to vote with the Motor Voter Act. We talked to Chip Roy about this, who's proposed the SAVE Act.
Right.
But once you get here and you apply for a driver's license, or you apply for welfare, you apply for whatever, the voter registration form has to be given to you, right? And on it says, "Are you a U.S. citizen? Yes or no?" Well, just say yeah. Who cares? They just say yeah. They already lied to get to. It's like the guy we talked about, a guy the other day who's been deported 16 times. So who does he care? He's going to say yes, and they're not allowed to ask for proof of your U.S. citizenship or not. So then you're registered to vote, and that's it. And you get your mail-in ballot and you vote. And maybe 20 years later, there's some audit that's done, and whatever, the damage is done. Who cares? Is that the story right now in the United States of America?
It's a sad state of affairs, and you consider that I mean, we're really looking at the perfect storm because you consider that very issue, which is precisely correct, and it's a gaping loophole that needs to be fixed and addressed. And there might be some ways to do a couple strategic things that we're looking at actually at America First Legal. But think about a state that, in the wake of COVID, adopted kind of mass mail only ballots, and think about the way that those things go out. They just automatically, in some places, send out ballots to every address to registered voters. Well, look, people move; they don't always update their addresses. And so, especially in transient kind of apartment communities. So if you have a valid person who is registered to vote at, I don't know, apartment 708 at, whatever city in Denver, maybe that person's gone now, but there's an illegal who's there, and a voter in a ballot, comes in the mail. What are you going to do with it? Well, I mean, you think, okay, well, I guess maybe I get a chance to vote. Maybe they do let me vote in this country. I don't know. I mean, so it really, it's error compounded on error, again, all done with just a complete carelessness about the integrity of our system and kind of the rule of law in the United States.
Talking with Gene Hamilton. He's the vice president of the very important America First Legal. So let's talk about what Joe Biden did the other day with spouses. About 500,000 of 550,000 illegal alien spouses of American citizens. All right, so who does this apply to? What's going on here?
Yeah, so in principle, what they've announced is a policy that manipulates one provision of law to skirt around another provision of law, and it's all done under the guise of helping spouses of U.S. citizens. And so they put it in humanitarian type of terms, but really there's no limiting principle to what they just announced. This is basically, conceptually, for the listeners at home, this is very similar to what they did with DACA, which is they announced some kind of program that's going to provide some kind of temporary benefit, which is contrary to law, totally illegal, but that is limited to some population that's arbitrarily picked out. But once they succeed with that, they expand it out. Of course they're going to do it. And so, whether it's 500,000, whether it's 1 million, whether it's 2 million, no one's ever actually going to know because they're not going to stop here. I mean, again, just look at what they did with DACA. They got away with it there. They tried to expand into DAPA. Thankfully, that was shut down. But here we are, and it's the year 2024. We've had DACA around for 12 years now.
Now in Seattle, these dreamers can now apply to be police officers, even though they're not legally able to carry firearms. Right.
Which is, again, another way that these policies are being used to skirt around clear federal law. So, like taking the example that you just gave, police officers. Well, aliens aren't allowed to possess firearms. Clear federal statute. But through these policies, through DACA and all these other types of programs that provide similar benefits, they're authorizing people. They're saying, we're going to look the other way, and you can actually be an illegal alien, a foreigner in a country, and we will give you the power to arrest a citizen. I mean, that's insane. No country on earth, no other country on earth would allow that. No one.
Wow. You're right, to look the other way. Because that goes back to what we just started off with, the 1996 law, the Remain in Mexico. That's just 20 years of looking the other way and being like, whatever. Actually, more than 20 years. Geez, 1996 is more than 20 years ago. So that seems crazy. That seemed like 1996, like 6 years ago.
Right.
All right. So back to this one, because I feel like we've had people call in and say, hey, the people coming here illegally, it's so unfair. My wife is from Mexico, and it's taking forever and, tons of money to get her here, and that's not fair that they come across illegally. So wouldn't this executive order from Joe Biden help that family, or who does it help specifically? Is it closing is it actually a good thing? Like, could it be possible that this is actually helping good people do it the right way?
So I don't think so. Here's why. It used to be understood on a bipartisan basis in Congress and elsewhere and in the country that you don't want to create incentives for illegal immigration. So all you want to make sure that you disincentivize illegal immigration. And so to do that, you have to create penalties in law and consequences for people who come across the border unlawfully. And so this is an example of one of them. So if you come across the border illegally into the United States, you cannot subsequently, under existing black letter law, then get married or get some kind of job and obtain a green card and adjust your status in the United States. It's not that way. There's penalties for being here illegally, and there's some limited waivers that are available if you go abroad, and they have the ability to grant certain exceptions. But what they've done with this program is they're saying, no, all of these things that Congress voted on, these laws that have been on the books, that have been black letter law for decades, we don't like them, and so we're just going to skirt around them, and we're going to say that you can stay here. So what does that do? That incentivizes more illegal immigration, because people say, well, then look, I should just come illegally. I shouldn't have to wait. And so if you are a person who has a family member going through the lawful process, you know what that process entails. You know the paperwork that entails. You know the waiting periods that are involved. This is completely and totally unfair to you, because all that this does is that it slaps you in the face. It says, hey, if you're trying to do things the right way, sorry, we don't care about you. All we care about are the people who violated the law and came to the country illegally.
That's right. That's right. I could see how people could be deceived by that, but of course that's right. This executive order doesn't speed up the legal process.
No, well,
at all.
No. It basically allows an illegal alien currently in the United States to obtain a green card based on some other, like a marriage to a citizen, et cetera, in a way that they wouldn't otherwise be able to do. And so again, when you have a just plain as day black letter law that says you cannot adjust your status in the United States to get a green card if you've come here illegally. That's been the case forever. And they're just saying, hey, you know what? We actually don't like that. We're just going to try to use this other authority that it's, by the way, the same statutory provision that they're using to rely on to bring in hundreds of thousands of aliens on airplanes into the United States from just 4 countries, the same exact authority that they're using to catch and release hundreds of thousands of aliens at the border is the same exact authority that they're saying also gives them the ability to do this, to get around the laws. And when you look at it that way, and you see that just kind of how extreme that is, I mean, that's basically saying that Joe Biden is an emperor. Joe Biden is a dictator. He can do whatever he wants for whatever purpose. Any law that you write has no application, because he can do whatever he wants with a just small few set of words that are supposed to be extremely limited authority, and he can do whatever he wants with it.